Hi, thanks Courtney for inviting me.
Hey,
Sorry for the craziness on getting onto my schedule, and just life is it's just a little crazy at the office this day. Super busy. So I apologize for that.
no, thank you so much for being here and coming live from your house and really carving out
Um,
time to be with us. Thank you.
I'm home, and maybe you can kind of see the mountains in the background through the
Yes,
window. Yes. So
gorgeous.
it's starting to get dark here, but yes, thank you so much for inviting me. And I just have to say that I'm super impressed with this group and with the leaders of this group and the homework. They just shared with me what they share with you for week 4. And Courtney, that is just awesome content that you have there. So I just want to give you guys huge kudos for that great content
Thank
that
you.
you're sharing with your team and what you're encouraging them to do. It is outstanding.
Thank you very much. Michelle and I work really hard on it, so that
It
means a
is
lot.
so good. I want to see the whole thing. I want to see all the weeks because I just think it's amazing. And I would love for you to partner with us and share. I mean, I just think it's just great what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So hi guys. I see Michelle and Emily and Tiffany and Jill and Courtney, of course, and I have dogs coming in and out. Just seconds ago, the fire alarm was going. The smoke alarm
Oh,
was
no.
going off in my house because my husband's attempting to cook dinner for us, and I think he might be burning more than he's cooking. But so he's doing that. So anyway, I'm here today to talk to you guys about goals, setting goals, the importance of goals, and I just want to tell it to you a little bit from some personal, uh, personal story for me. Can you turn that down a little bit? And what it is it's really interesting. And I don't know if any of you guys are on that, the page that the elites did for the opportunity session where you can invite guests to it. They have a page. And so I went live there and I shared a little bit there about how this impacted our family. And I went from having what I called a real job, being a teacher, into this world of direct sales, which has been a big and better real job than I could have ever dreamed that it could turn out to be. But it all came from setting goals. So I'm going to just kind of relate it to you guys from my personal story of setting goals. And it's kind of funny going back to when I first joined direct sales. I was just all about getting the discount and getting the products for free. And that's what I wanted to do because I was on a budget. I mean, is that any of you guys? Are any of you guys like, oh yeah, I mean, I signed up for the discount. I thought, oh, I could see what I could get. That's most people. We love the product. And so we're like, what have I got to lose, right? So you give it a go. So that was me in the beginning. And then I did a few parties and I started like, doing the commission earning on the way home while I was driving home. I'm like, at that particular, you guys are so funny with the hair. You're so funny. So at that particular time with that company, I earned 25%. So, if I did a $500 party, it was $125. So I just remember driving home doing the math, like, okay, it was $750. So I made, and that's what I did. And I loved it. And I thought, wow, this is like pretty significant. The more I put in, the more I can get out. And then I learned about, the power of duplication. And if I taught others to do what I do. So then, I was starting to kind of catch the bug. And so I started attending meetings. And these were actually local in-home meetings I went to, but, because I'm a dinosaur and it was back in the day, but now meetings can be Zoom, they can be on Facebook, they can be Skype, they can be whatever you want. And I always encourage coming together in person because nothing beats that in-person time together. So I started going to meetings and I started meeting other people like me and I started learning about goal setting. And I want to tell you one funny story if you haven't heard it. So this upline person to me, she wasn't my direct upline. She was like maybe 5 levels up from me. And I don't even think she earned any money on me. And so she was doing this whole goal setting thing. And she wanted us to all write down, she called our big fat hairy goal. So like the one goal, like you want more than anything in the world. And I was being a brat and I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a waste of my time. I don't write down goals. This is not what I do. I mean, this person, blah, 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 right? And I wasn't participating. So she kind of called me out and she's like, Stacy, why aren't you writing anything down? I'm like, well, this whole goal thing, I don't really write down goals. It's not really my thing. And she's like, well, so then she sits down next to me and she's like, well, what is the one thing? And she just kept going. And I'm like, I don't know. I like being with my kids. Well, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. And she's like, are you going to go back to your teaching job? I said, well, yeah, I have to go back to my teaching job. I carry the insurance. We're a 2-income family. This is what I'm going to do. And she goes, well, how would you feel if you didn't have to go back? And I thought, for crying out loud, how am I going to get this woman off my back? So I am going to write down a goal just to shut her up so that she'll leave me alone and I completed the exercise. And I thought, I'm going to write down something that no way is going to happen so that I can prove to her that this little exercise is all worthless. So that's me. That's how I can be. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to write down that I want to resign from teaching, because guess what? That is never going to happen. We're a 2-income family. I need the insurance. So I'm going to write this goal down to shut her up and just to prove to her that she's wrong. So she does all the right things she's supposed to do. And she, she could see me, even though I was 5 levels down, I was a consistent seller and I was a consistent recruiter. So she was going to latch on to me. So this is where she believed in me before I believed in myself, which is one of the things I always encourage people to do with their teams, is that you lend your belief in that person before they even believe in themselves. You tell them what you see in them. And she did that. And I was like, and here I have 3 little kids home, 3 kids under 5. Maybe it was 3 under 6 at that point. I'd probably been in the business for a year. And so then she took the next step and she said, okay, well, let's break this down. What's it going to take for you to stay home? How much income do you have to have on a monthly basis to stay home? Let's take out childcare. Let's take out clothes. Let's take out lunches. Let's take out all those expenses that you have for work. And let's figure out what you have to do to stay home. So we did that. So now I'm kind of starting to buy in a little bit. And she's like, will you partner with me for the next 12 to 18 months and do what I coach you to do? And let's see if we can get you there. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, well, if she can get me there, like there was truly nothing more I could do than be the one to be home to raise my kids and have my own business. So, of course, my family thought I was nuts. My husband always supported me, but my family thought I was nuts. I was throwing away these 2 college degrees. What was I thinking? We heard from all over. That's a whole nother story for another webinar. Heard it from all over, but I stuck to it. And lo and behold, about 15 months later, I was at that income and I was able to resign from the job. Now, I know, right? So had I not been challenged, had I not had someone who believed in me before I believed in myself, had I not written down that goal, it never would have happened. And so I had that big, fat, hairy goal, and then I had to break it into small bite-sized pieces. And so to start out, some of those small bite-sized pieces were, we were, down on a budget. We were down to 1 car. And one time my husband had all 3 kids in the SUV and I had to go do a party. And I had to take his gross work construction truck. And I lived in Michigan then, because you probably know that's where I'm from. I moved to Utah for Jamboree. And I was it was like 9 degrees, 100% humidity, no air conditioning in this pickup truck. And it smelled like construction workers. And it was gross. So I was like every color word on the way there and on the way home. And by the time I got home from this party, I said, I'm buying a minivan. He's like, no, you're not. We're on 1 budget. I'm like, I don't care. I will figure it out. I will pay for it. And so I went the next day and got a lease on a minivan, and I had to come up with like $320 a month to make that payment. That was my first goal. And like do or die, because I'd already is in the contract. So I had to make it work. But that was my goal. So I had to break it down so that always happened. So then when I did that, I'm like, I mean, seriously, guys, that's a couple parties, right? So when that wasn't so hard, I'm like, maybe I should do 500. Well, that was pretty easy. 500 became 1,000. 1,000, then I set a goal for 3,000. 3,000 to 5,000. Now, do I want to do that all by myself just through my personal sales? No, because then I would be going crazy, right? I'd be gone all the time, doing parties all the time. So I learned how to leverage myself and to share the gift of the business and the difference it could make with others. And so I found like-minded people. Now know that it's a numbers game. It's like 1 in 10 are going to really follow your lead. If you're not doing anything, if you're sloughing off, everyone will follow your lead. But if you're working to build a business, and you're working your business, 1 in 10 are going to get the vision and follow you. And then where you grab them by watching your reports and start lending your belief in them. So it's truly about, it really is at the end of the day about setting goals and writing the goals down, finding a partner. And you guys have these battle buddies in this group. This is amazing. I couldn't be more impressed by this. Seriously, could not be more impressed by this. But it's you guys holding each other accountable. So now let's talk about the goals in Jamboree. And so that you have a goal of the trip, right? You're going to Costa Rica or Thailand, but I think you're all going to Costa Rica on this call. And so the thing is your battle buddy has to be, you guys have to be willing to say to each other, I'm not getting on the plane unless you get on the plane. Like, that's how much in it you guys have to be with each other. Like, I'm not going if you don't go, so that you're holding each other accountable. It's just like exercise, right? When you have a buddy that's counting on you to walk every day, you're going to go because she's getting up at 5:30 to walk, right? So this is what you want to do. So it's about having that buddy, that accountability buddy, and writing your goals down. That is so key. And there's going to be months where you're not going to hit your targets. It just happens. And you can't throw in the towel then. You have to just reset and reevaluate and make up. So like if your goal was like you had to do 2,000 in sales and you only did 1,500, well, you got to add that 500 onto the next month. You got to get right back on track again. So you don't give up, you reassess and you reevaluate. So maybe that means getting on the phone and making 10 more phone calls to get 2 more bookings. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's incenting your host to get more guests at her party so that you can get your party average up, so that you can make up that difference. You know, the fastest, easiest, if I should use that word, way to earn this trip is through recruiting and leadership development. I mean, truly, if you bring in 1 to 2 people a month and get them to go, you know, start through their Fast Start program, teaching them to do the same thing, and then moving those people to LC and so on, you're going to earn the trip faster than any other way. Any other way. So sales and leadership development is the fastest way to earn this. I mean, not sales, recruiting and leadership development. Sales is great because you can, I like to think of sales as making up the difference in points for you, but really set that goal, because through recruiting and leadership development, your business is going to be so much further ahead a year from now than where it is today. Your sales it's easy to burn yourself out when you try to do it all through sales. You want to figure out what's a reasonable number of parties that works for your family, and that's what you commit to, and then make up the difference in recruiting and leadership development. And so leadership development meaning you developing others, moving those people up, but then also developing yourself, because as you move people up, you're going to move up. So that's what you want to be able to do. So it's all about setting those goals, having a buddy, reassessing where you need to do, and truly the trip, sorry, he's letting all the dogs in. The trip is a business plan. So we set up the requirements for that trip that if you do each of those categories, that is your business plan for 12 months. And what about that trip booster program for new people? Like how, I know, how awesome is that? So then next month, can't do the math in my head, but next month it's going to be 1,500 points less for when someone comes in. So you always have this great talking point of why now is the perfect time to join Jamboree. And so I want to did any of you guys, have any of you guys read John Gordon at all? His Power of Positive Leadership? Okay, he spoke at our exec retreat, and I'm working on getting him for conference, but keep that a secret between us. So this book, The Power of Positive Leadership, is really a great, great book, especially as you're starting to develop your business and really starting to work towards goals like this, because you want to lead from a positive perspective. And I'm going to close out the screen for 1 second because I want to share with you guys. Give me a second here. I'm a little slow on the tech side. I want to share with you, he does this weekly like newsletter. And so I'm going to share 5 tips from him today, why leaders need to be positive thinkers. And I want you guys to write these down, because this is going to, as you set these goals and as you work towards your goals, be it gosh, I'm like, where are we going? Punta Cana. Wait, no, we just went there. Costa Rica. See, I get so confused. Costa Rica, that's your business plan that's going to grow your business. So if you set that as your goal, that's great. But girlfriend, you're going to be like so far ahead a year from now than where you are today if you follow all the categories. So you want to be a positive leader to do this and to get others to follow you. So the first tip, the first thing you want to do as a positive leader is be aware of your thoughts. You want to observe your thoughts. Keep in mind that complaints, self-doubt, fear, and negativity lead to unhappiness, failure, and unfulfilled goals over time. When you notice these thoughts, it's high time for an intervention. So, you know, and you see that, you guys, because you're on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. There's some people I'm just like, oh my gosh, on my personal page, I have to unfollow. Like, they're so negative and they just complain about everything. I'm like, I just can't have that in my life, because there's plenty that I could be worried about or doubting or concerned about. But when you hear that and that starts to creep in, intervene. Be aware of your thoughts. Stop that thought process. The second tip is talk yourself through the fear. Understand that fear is a liar. If you believe the fear-based thoughts that you think, and some fear-based thoughts are things like, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't deserve this, the world is falling apart. Those are fear-based thoughts. Everything around you is going to validate what you believe to the point where eventually, well, everything around you is going to validate what you're saying to yourself to the point where you're actually going to start to believe it. So when you hear those fear-based thoughts, like where you're doubting yourself, you're doubting the world, you're doubting everything, you need to talk yourself through this fear. Just because you have a negative thought doesn't mean that you have to believe it. It's a lie. So don't believe it. So whenever that negative thought creeps into your head, don't believe it. It's a lie. Fear is a lie. So then the third tip is to speak truth to the lies. So instead of listening to these negative lies or these negative thoughts, choose to feed yourself with the positive truth. Speaking truth to the lies and fill it up with words, thoughts, and phrases and beliefs that give you the strength and power to overcome the challenges and create that extraordinary life, career, or team that you're working towards. The truth is that no matter what's happening around you, and regardless of what negative thoughts pop into your head, you possess the capability and power to take positive action. So when doubt and fear creeps into your head, you need to speak truth to it. You need to speak positiveness to it, because as soon as you start to believe those lies, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Things start to go wrong. But if you're focused on the positive, you tend to not notice, even if something isn't quite right, because you're focused on where you're going. So the fourth tip is try being grateful instead of stressed. Research shows that you can't be stressed and grateful or thankful at the same time. So if you feel blessed, you won't feel stressed. So when you start to feel stressed, I want you to stop, take a deep breath, and think about all the blessings you have in your life, because you can't physiologically be stressed and blessed at the same time. And then the fifth tip is to start to talk to yourself instead of listening to yourself. And I think this is really interesting. So I want to share this. Dr. James Gills is the only person to complete 6 double Ironman triathlons. And the last time he did it, he was 59 years old. When asked how he did it, he said, I've learned to talk to myself instead of listen to myself. If I listen to myself, I hear all the doubts, fears, and complaints of why I can't finish the race. If I talk to myself, I can feed myself with the words I need to keep moving forward. And those words can be things like, you are good enough, you've got this, you can do this, nothing's going to stop you. You've trained, you're ready, your mind's ready, your body's ready. So it's about talking to ourselves. So when those doubts and those fears creep in, remember they're a lie. Take some time to realize that you can't be blessed and stressed at the same time, and count your blessings, and then talk yourself through that. You do deserve this. You do deserve to be on that trip. You deserve to have the business that you want to have, be it part-time, big time, or part-time, full-time, or big time. Whatever it is for you, you do deserve that. So talk yourself through when a curveball comes your way, how are you going to handle it? How are you going to move forward through it? How is your dream and that goal that you've written down bigger than any obstacle that might be put into your path? Because that is how, no one gets to wherever they are by luck. It's because they've set a goal, they've persisted, they've persevered, they've failed, they've started over again, and they kept going because the goal and the dream was bigger than anything else. And remember, without writing a goal down or sharing it with somebody, it's just a dream, and no one's holding you accountable to it. So if you really want to have it happen, you have to write it down, you have to share it, and you have to be accountable. You have to find someone to help you. If you can't do it yourself, which most of us can't, most of us really need someone to help say, you've got this, you can do this, push through this. And sometimes it's somebody in your inner circle in your personal life, but it could be your battle buddy, or it could be your upline. So, okay. Oh, train your brain. I do love train your brain, Michelle. That's great stuff. That is really great stuff. So with that, I hope I have filled your cup with what you were looking for today. And I want to open it up. Feel free to unmute yourself or type in any questions that you may have on anything that I might have shared today, or anything that's like, stalking your mind that you want to ask me. And I'll do my very best to answer.
Okay, I just unmuted everyone for you, Stacy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So what do you guys think? My dogs are all freaked out by this smoke alarm that went off, and they're all like hiding by my feet here. Was that, did that like edify some things that maybe you've already learned or talked about, to realize that it's really, we tend to make things harder than they really are. It's really about setting goals and persevering. And it's funny, I know we've had our challenges at Jamboree. I'm not going to stick my head in the sand like an ostrich and pretend that we haven't. We've made a lot of changes. There's been a lot of decisions that have been changed that have been frustrating for you guys, and I acknowledge that, and I know that, and we're working to correct all of that. But it would be really easy for you guys to point your finger and blame it on us. But the reality is, you still have a great business. You still have a great product. You still have great opportunities and incentives and goals. So don't let that blame game get in the way for you. Set your goals and you go for it.
I have sort of a question. One of the things that Courtney and I are seeing, I think, throughout this training and on our teams, is that folks are nervous about setting some of those big scary goals, and they're either not feeling like it's possible or like they deserve to reach those things. Can you help give us some words of wisdom for encouraging people to set goals that feel bigger than they can achieve right now?
Mm-hmm. So that's great. That's a great question, Michelle. And, I kind of shared my story. I did it just because I was trying to be a brat. But the reality is, and it's okay. And I think these words kind of help. Is like, you saw me call it your big, fat, hairy goal. The big, fat, scary goal. And I would say this goal is so big, it kind of makes you want to throw up a little bit. So I want you to write that down, because everyone knows what that is. And it's like, so we're just going to write it down. But we're not going to, and we'll come back to that later. But to get to that goal, what are some of the smaller bite-sized steps that we have to do? But what kind of steps do we need to take to get there, knowing that ultimately that's our outcome? So describe that goal for what it is, the big, fat, hairy goal that makes you kind of sick to your stomach. And then they're like, oh, yeah, okay. So sometimes that helps too. Sometimes you have to ask more questions, like if they're like, oh, I don't know if I have that. And just say, I get it. And sometimes it's hard just to verbalize it. Sometimes we think it's like so unachievable that we don't put it down. Or sometimes we think that we're not worth it. But I want to tell you that anything that we put down, that we set our mind to, when we write it down and can see it, our mind subconsciously is trying to help us achieve that goal. So it's just like when you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm having another one of those crazy jamberry dreams where I'm at a party, right? That's because your brain knows that you're trying to earn the incentive trip or the whatever's going on out there, or you have a financial goal or whatever. So it's like rehearsing in your head what you need to do to get there. And that's when you have some of those crazy dreams. So when you put that goal, write that goal down and you put it out there, you know, that's how our brain works. Like, you know, we all know we only use 10% of our brain, so we don't even know how powerful it really is. Mm-hmm. But it's always working. It's always working for us and trying to help us to get to where we're going. That's why we want to write it down.
Cool. Thank you.
Does that help, Michelle?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just having folks remind themselves that they do deserve it. And I think for a lot of times for women, that's hard,
right,
to say, you know, that they deserve this thing. And you know, I've had calls with folks recently who their goal is like $200 a month, and I'm like, okay, so somewhere between $200 a month and elite executive, there's a goal, like somewhere in between there. But like, it's okay to dream bigger, I think is
absolutely. And not everyone's going to want to get to elite executive. As you know, there's a heck of a lot of money to be made on the way up to that too. So you're absolutely right. And it is a lot of times that people, you know, I think especially for women, you bring up a good point. You know, a great analogy is just like on the airplanes where they tell you to put your oxygen mask on before you put it on for others. That's true for this business too. I mean, you are deserving of this. And so you deserve to achieve your goals. You deserve to have what you want in this life. We only get one shot, and we don't want to live it with any regrets. So we don't want to, you know, we're going to miss every chance we didn't take. You know, we're going to miss every shot we didn't take. And so we don't know until we take it. And sometimes we take it and we miss, but we're like, dang, I was pretty close. I think I'm going to try that again. Right. And you reevaluate and you make some changes. So absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's really just about, more than anything, talking them through it and establishing that relationship about, you know, tell me, you know, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Like, what goal would you tell me if you knew there was no way you could fail? And sometimes that'll get them to tell you too.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Yeah, I do too. Well, and I think we talk a lot about the goal to go on the incentive trip, which is obviously like an amazing goal to have, but maybe a smaller, like more short-term goal would be like even JamCon, because that to some people can seem like a scary thing that they maybe can't afford or don't know how to treat themselves to this trip. Obviously that's different. The incentive trip is paid for you, but you can get so much out of JamCon, you know, to hopefully to be working towards that too, setting a goal to be there and to really fill your cup up while you're at JamCon.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, it's. I'm glad you brought that up, because we do quarterly business reviews where we bring our teams together every quarter after a quarter ends, and we track different stats. So like we track the success of the $25 kit. I mean, my team looks at that. They look at new consultant success. They look at how many people are getting through Fast Start, and we evaluate, and that's how we make tweaks to the programs. And one of the things that we were looking at after QBR's after conference was the success of the people who attend conference. And we run it on a graph. So it's your conference attendees by QV, and then another graph by recruiting. And the masses are always like on this graph. If this was the graph, they're down, you know, down here with their bumps. The conference attendees are always up here. They're always performing at a higher level consistently. So, I mean, it could be argued that, well, yeah, of course, it's the people who are working to make this a business that attend conference. Well, yes and no. There's a lot of people who are at the consultant level just trying to figure out how this is going to fit into their life, because that was me at my first conference, and they are still performing at a higher level than the people who don't know. They maintain their rank, they advance in rank, all the things that you would expect happens from that conference attendance. And I think that to your point, that a lot of times people feel like I'm not worthy enough to invest this money in myself. And if I invest this money in myself, what am I taking away from my family? But I think you have to look at, if you come back and put into action what you learn and the network of people who you can connect with, it's going to pay yourself back 10 times over.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And it's worth it just for the experience. I mean, you come home as this like refreshed, recharged, like better human. So anybody who's thinking about going, please, please, please think about making that a priority this year, because it's worth it doesn't even begin to cover how amazing it is.
Okay. Yeah, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And so, yeah, and like I said today in the Jam Now, we'll be opening that up in just a couple weeks. We're just finalizing some final details of the agenda. We're trying to get some contracts signed with speakers and things like that. But we have plenty of rooms at the Gaylord Opryland, so please make sure you use those. We've got a great rate on them of $200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, $200.
That is really good.
It's an amazing location. And so 2 people in a room, $100 a night. I mean, you can put more, but yeah, I don't encourage it. I like having more access to bathrooms and sleeping, less people snoring if there's only 2 of you in there.
That's true.
It's totally up to you what you want to do. But we have plenty of rooms for you guys, and all the action is at the Opryland. So you don't want to be off-site, because it's early mornings, late nights, and it's like a little city unto itself, and nothing is really close to it. So you really want to be staying there. And if you rented a car and park there, then it's $29 a day for parking. So
oh, wow.
yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions for Stacy before we let her go enjoy her burnt meal that her husband made?
I know, right? I know. He's like, I guess it's sitting on the stove, but it made the smoke detector go off. So the first.
Well, it hasn't gone off since we've been talking. So
no, he had it went up 3 times before. I'm like, seriously, can you make that stop before I get on this call? So he had fans going and stuff. Awesome. Okay, well, you guys, thank you for inviting me to join you. And
thank you so much.
I really look forward to your success, and I commend you for your commitment to this group and to each other, because this is going to be a great year for you.
Thank you so much, Stacy.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.